funny because this sounds like I'm jumping into like cheesy cliche sayings right away, but by failing or like doing something wrong, that is how I learn everything right now.
That to me is like the prerequisite for growth.
Yeah.
Failing.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I can talk about that too.
Well, we're gonna spill all the tea in this episode.
Right.
And first of all, I just got a quick introduction here. Laura, she's the owner, CEO of Periwinkle Designs, and she's a new business in the Quinny area. And Laura, I'm super excited to have you here. I feel like we just went through life together and trying to figure out this Zoom stuff, and we made it. We made it on the other side. So that's awesome. Oh, and then I think you just froze. That's hilarious.
Oh. Okay, now you're not. Now you're not.
There we go. Okay, we unfroze here. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna get right into things. We kind of started this podcast off talking about like learning from failure. I'm gonna ask you actually to kind of dig into your bag of experience and tell me about a time that you experienced failing at something, but how that boosted you forward into what you're doing now.
Okay. Okay, so here's a good fail. I had a great job and loved the people I worked with, but I wanted to make more money.
Doing what?
And so I was working in radio and sales and marketing. So I worked for Quinny Broadcasting, and they are beyond awesome group of people, family owned and operated, just a really great workplace. And I had some things change in my life. So I was completely starting over on my own and was like, okay, I need to make some more money. I'm going to take this risk and take this other job. So this other job was a lot more money and there was more responsibility and it was a management position, and like, okay, let's do this. I knew some people who worked there. The interview process was pretty grueling, but I accepted the offer. Everything sounded great. And then I got in there and I remember sitting at my desk and just being like, okay, remember to breathe, because I had found out that I had taken over a job that was 3 people. And I didn't know that. It was intense, and I tried and I was going in on days off and putting in those hours, and it was a week before my 3 months was up. And they pulled me into the office and they just said, yeah, things just aren't working out. And I was like, what?
What did they expect?
I don't know.
They wanted you to replace 3 people?
I don't know.
In one position? Oh my goodness.
So I remember sitting there and I had some events that I had scheduled later in the day that were like presentations. And so I had like catering and everything that was going to be picked up. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about this after, because I've got like, and they're like, oh no, we're gonna, like, you're done. And I was like, oh, okay. And it was just, and I asked for feedback. And there wasn't feedback. However, I found out, I think it was like a month later, that there was somebody in management that did get the job. So I don't know what happened. So there was somebody, I don't know if I was a filler or what, but anyways, it worked out. It's kind of funny because I have a relative that like lives there. So I go there all the time, and like I learned a lot through that whole process though.
Hold on a second. When somebody can't give you feedback on the reason they're letting you go, that tells you one thing. That tells you they screwed it up. That's what that tells you. They screwed it up.
As you know, in that position though, where I had left this job where they had been so good to me, and then kind of put everything into this job, I was just, I was really sad. I remember I just like went home and I cried because I just didn't understand. I just didn't understand what happened. And I felt really sorry for myself for about a month. And then I ran into a coworker like at the dog park, and she was like, "Oh, you know, so and so has your job." And I was like, "Oh, I see what happened," kind of. So that taught me to not always put everything into one basket, but that also taught me about my worth as an employee, because I didn't want to put myself in that situation again. I just didn't. And then COVID hit. And so I was just kind of like, okay, so I'm not going to work right now. Like, we're on lockdown. What are we going to do? And so I just started like painting canvases and stuff. And I was at my mom's place, and it's so funny because she'd be sitting on the couch and I'd be painting. She'd be like, yes, it's so beautiful. And I'm like, oh, okay. And she's my mom. Of course she's gonna root for me. And I'm like, oh, I'm just a struggling artist now. Like, that's what I am. If people ask me, and I'm joking, like kind of poking fun at myself because I'm not a very great painter. Like, I get lucky sometimes and I'll put something on and it'll just kind of flow. But a lot of the time it's like therapy for me. It just helps me kind of get things out. But I can paint furniture, and I can flip furniture, and I have a good eye for furniture. So I kind of just tried to take that control back of my life and be able to, you know, in such a chaotic time, have a bit of framework. So but that was a big fail, and I've failed quite a few times at things, but I am so grateful that happened. Like, I actually am grateful. I'm grateful I'm not at that job anymore. Just the whole experience was difficult to go through because there was a lot of other stuff going on at the time, but I get it. Like, I get that I needed to learn something and not put everything into, like, my job is not my identity, which very much was for a long time.
Talk about it. See, that's what I'm saying right there, Laura.
Yeah.
That's
and I
a
like
huge
what you
thing.
said the other day too about, you know, if somebody offered to buy OSM, you would
Right? Like, listen, like, I am not what I do has nothing to do with who I am. You'll see parts of who I am and what I do, but they're not a bond that if they're broken, then I'm somebody else. Like, it's me. You're gonna get me in whatever capacity you see me. I'm into other things. I like music. I'm a drummer, but you're gonna get that same energy. So I love that, like, so early on you have that realization and that knowledge, because I think a lot of people miss it. And I think subconsciously, like, it's easy to start to go down that path, like, especially when you're in entrepreneurship, right? Because it's your baby, it's your business, you know what I mean? And then you get attached, and then it's like, oh, like, you get to a point where it's almost like it's vulnerability for you, because then it's like, oh, like, if I lost this tomorrow, then what?
It's so true. And I think it's when I was working for somebody else, like I have for the past 10 years, always worked for somebody else. So I think that I used to be so fearful of what if something happened to my job? What if I can't meet my target, and just having that anxiety all the time. But now I find that I know that I'm doing well and I don't have to worry. I know that if I'm not doing well, then I can kind of fix it. Not to say that there's not like a lot of worry and fear in being an entrepreneur and owning a business. There definitely is. But my friend says, and it's probably a pretty frequent saying, like, everything is figure outable. And it's so true. It's we figured out the microphone. I just needed to upgrade my Zoom app.
Yeah. Listen, I'm totally with you, Laura. Like, one of one of the smallest words that has really helped me in this whole transition as an entrepreneurship, like just the word "I'm sorry," like just the two words "I'm sorry." That goes a long way, because things are gonna go sideways. Like, everything can't be perfect all the time. So it's like, somebody said, like, like, we're firefighters, like entrepreneurs, like, we're firefighters. We're constantly putting out fires. But I don't think it's about that. I think it's about, like, how do we handle that? How do we react? I think sometimes just the word "I'm sorry,"
Yeah.
even if you messed up and that client is unhappy, like, I think that goes a long way, and that tells them a little bit more about who you are, and the fact that you're trying to still resolve things for them. I think that goes a long way.
It's true. It is true. And I remember somebody telling me a story about a local barber in town, and they had somebody that came in. This is kind of like different than "I'm sorry," but it's also, I'll just tell you the story. So this lady came in, got her hair cut, and she was just not having a good time. The whole time she was getting her hair cut, she was just complaining about things. And, the poor person who was doing the hair, it was just, they're like, "This is awful. Like, I'm trying to do this and this is just brutal." And the lady wouldn't stop complaining. And so eventually the barber said to her, "I don't think we're having fun." And the girl kind of looked at her and she's like, "What? What do you mean?" And she's like, "Yeah, are you having fun?" Like, and she's like, "Well, no." And she's like, "Yeah, neither am I. Maybe this isn't working." And she was like, "Okay, yeah." And I was like, wow, I kind of really admire the fact that she did that. And it reminds me of when, like, my friend fired her driving instructor because she was, like, really intimidated. She was like, "Yeah, we're done now." And she told me the story. I'm like, "What do you mean you told her you're done now?" And she's like, "Well, I dropped her back off at the driving place." Like, she was really rude to me. And I was like, "Would never do that. But, like, I really respect you."
That's a real hard lesson to learn, especially when you're just starting out, but it is the lesson.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. I fired or deferred more clients in 2020 than I ever have.
Oh, you have to, because it's not a time to be mean or difficult. We're all in this together. And if you're going to create extra challenges, it's really, like, not worth it. If it's not figure outable, because sometimes things just aren't figure outable. Sometimes it's a them problem.
I'm going to adopt that word, figure outable. I like that.
Figure outable. It's so true.
It is.
So,
It is. Listen, I'm super curious about something, Laura, because,
yeah.
like, you have a background of sales, right?
Yeah.
And, like, so one thing about me that you may not know, like, I went to Loyalist College. I studied sales and marketing
Same.
Wait, what year did you graduate?
Oh, 2012. I'm 32.
Okay, so I came in after you. Or sorry.
Brad and Kim are great.
Yeah, I came in. Yeah. Brad, I had Kim. Yeah. So I graduated from that program. Interesting. Okay, same program. So, you've been through the program, so you know what the program is like, and, like, how, the tactics and the role plays and all that stuff. So when I got into marketing and I went to be at OSM, I really, like, struggled. Like, I'm not even gonna front. Like, I really struggled, and I'm just like, man, like, what's the problem? Like, and the job that I came from Sport Check. I was like an associate in footwear, and I remember the first night I came off the floor. Manager pulls me aside. She says, "You're our new star," and I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she showed me the paper, and it showed, like, all the sales for the night, and she's like, "You're at the top of the list. You move the most product." And I was like, "Oh, sweet." So I'm like, so I went from that being the best salesperson at Sport Check to struggling at OSM. And I'm like, what's the difference? Like, what changed? Why is this not working out? And you know what it was? At Sport Check, they came to me and I just had to assist them and get them to start thinking about what's going to be best for them. At OSM, my initial approach was to go out and get people, cold calling, email, like the traditional sales tactic. But that wasn't working for me. So then it took like 3 years, like I almost quit OSM. Like I started in sales and marketing before I bought the business. And I almost quit because I was like, this is just not working. Then I had the unlock where I found out, oh no, I need to build a brand that's recognizable. Because like we were recognized, but we were recognized for different things than where I was trying to bring the business to. So I'm like, we have to build a brand that's recognizable so that we create demand based off of that. That's why you'll see Coffee and Marketing Chat. That's why you see Network BOQ. That's why I'm doing like these podcasts. Like, so what for you has been an unlock for you so far as an entrepreneur now? Because now, given the context of where we both came from and then how that relates to the real world, because I'll be honest, like it's a little different out here than necessarily what you get in school. What have you learned in this process now of being an entrepreneur, of like how you onboard, or you just get the word out, or have clients essentially? What's been an unlock for you?
Well, I think it's funny because I can relate to that in a lot of ways, and also realizing, like, when I think OSM, I don't think of what I used to think of. I didn't really know OSM. Like, I knew that I drove by it before, but now I think of like the Chris Green label. I think of Josh. I think of your team. I can see them. I can hear them. So they're buying the story. They're buying the brand, which is you, and friendly and innovative, and always doing things, connecting. So I think that what I learned was, when I was starting this, like this just started in March. And so I always say, like, I'm just putting off going back to like a real job. But I'm not, like, I'm in this for the long run. But I think that realizing that I want to encourage people, like, I paint furniture, I flip furniture, I can take a piece and I can make it look really great, and we can customize it, we can have it match your decor, I can find you things. You could do that. Like, you totally could do that. Anybody can do that. It doesn't take, a genius to do that. It takes time, tools, space, patience, and, somebody willing to clean up the mess and everything. But realizing that when people a lot of the time deal with me, they're buying, dealing with me and dealing with the type of people that I deal with. So, I pride myself on being really friendly. I want to help them. If they don't want to pay me to do it, I will still take time to tell you how to do it. Like, I'm not going to spend all day and not answer other emails or not tend to other things. But, at the end of the day, I just want other people to do this and other people to get inspired, because I found this an amazing creative outlet. So I remember when I was talking to somebody, I was doing a contactless delivery, and it was a mother of 4, and she had spent like $600 buying a bench from me, and I had to pick it up from Kingston, and I had to change it and distress it and blah, 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 blah. And I said, like, you could probably do this. And she's like, yeah, this is a mother of 4 in a big home that has kids running around, dinner's cooking and everything. And she's like, well, maybe, like, could I? And I'm like, yeah, like, you birthed 4 children. And like, I didn't say that, but I was thinking that, like, of course you can. She just goes, well, I'm so scared of failing. And I'm like, wow. Like, no. But I think, I still stay in touch with her, and she wants to come to a workshop once I get those started. But I really, at the end of the day, I just want to deal with people, keep doing these kinds of, you know, being able to network with people like you, being able to paint a bit, I make enough where I'm happy. I don't live like an extravagant lifestyle, so I don't have that need, and it's COVID. But also understanding that I worked for a company that was started on Dragon's Den. And again, it was right out of Kim and Brad's business sales and marketing at Loyalist. And I went there, and it was downtown Toronto, and I'm from Sterling. Like, I'm from a valley of like 100 people. And I'm there, and they put me in this room, and they're like, give me a phone. They give me a laptop, and they're like, your territory is Ottawa. And this was like the Canadian version of Groupon. So it was calling businesses and then being like, hey, my name's Laura, and I'm from TeamBuy, and I want you to discount your product by 50%, and I want to keep half of the revenue, and we're going to get a bunch of people to buy it and show up at your business. They'd be like, you're crazy. Do you know my brand? I don't need this. But then I'd say, can I follow up with you, please? Like, this is when I'm going to call. And I'd send, you know, a well-worded email. I'd compliment them on their social media. I'd look at their website. And I would stay in touch with these people for 6 months until I could curate something that was going to work for them. So when people see who they're dealing with, it's not a matter of them buying right then. It's a matter of when and what is their experience like. So if they have a good experience with Laura from Periwinkle and they end up painting their own furniture, then that's part of their story. So I feel like I'm a little all over the place, but I think the message that I'm trying to touch on is just that how you deal with people and how you treat people is a bit of your story, and they're going to tell somebody who's going to tell somebody who's going to Instagram something, and it all trickles back down to the same kind of funnel.
You said a couple of real key things there that I want to break down. Mm-hmm. One, you said you're dealing with the person. You're not dealing with the business. You're dealing with the person. That, to me, like, is so key. You're right. And like you're dealing with Laura. So this is the value that Laura brings to the table. That's number one. I love that. Number two, this is a really good strategy. You mentioned something about showing people how they can do it themselves. Mm-hmm. Laura, I'm not kidding. I believe this so much. I think that the best marketing strategy, one of the best marketing strategies ever, is to educate people on how not to use you. Yeah. That is the biggest, like, that is such a huge unlock. A lot of people need to start doing that. It's like, it's crazy how, because then they see the process. They understand the process. They understand what that investment entails. And then it's like, okay, I understand it now, but I don't want to do it.
Don't do it. It's too much work. And that's like, you know, I have somebody that, she's a friend, but she does my bookkeeping, because I will look at numbers and just like it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time for me to try and balance those things. And she said to me, she's like, you know what I love the most? And I'm like, what? She's like, when there's like a spreadsheet and there's something missing and I have to find out what it is. And she was like so excited about this. And I was like, I want to pay you to do this. Like, I want to, because that's pretty awesome that you love doing that. And me, I can look at it until I'm blue in the face, but I would much rather know that my time might be better spent, you know, doing other things. Leave it to the expert.
That is super key, Laura. That is super key. Because, like, I find that's a huge, like, pitfall, like, when people are starting up. Like, they're everything in their business out of necessity. Mm-hmm. They have to do it all. But then it's like, okay, but at what point do I start delegating, handing things off? And it's funny because, like, I put out this video on TikTok, and it's like, I'm like, it's inventory time. And it was talking about, like, okay, like, 2021's coming. Like, what are some things that we can automate, delegate, or get rid of? Because you just said it, your time is valuable. And for me, Laura, my time is best spent building relationships and in business development and HR. That's where my time is best spent. I try to do absolutely nothing else other than that. So that's a huge unlock that you have. And I think that's going to bring a lot of value to people that are watching this, because I think it's so easy. Like, I constantly hear people saying, I don't have time. I don't have time for this. Like, I'm really trying to get people to start podcasting, because I think there's a huge unlock there.
I did not think that I could find something where I'm able to make money. And I don't know, it still even just like blows my mind that, because I was working out of a storage locker a couple months ago, and that sounds really fun. Now I feel like where I am right now, I'm going to look back at that in 6 months and be like, wow, because it's all those little things that we do each day that are going to add up to, where we can reap the rewards.
So I'm very curious about this now that you mentioned that, and like talking about like 6 months from now, like what do you see for yourself? Like ultimately, like where are you trying to get to? Like even like 5 years down the line, like have you thought that far ahead? Like what does Laura want out of life?
Well,
it's a loaded question.
I want balance. I want to have multiple different streams of income so that I don't have to just provide a service. So in a perfect world, I would have a paint line, not a huge amount of paints. Like, I'm not going to compete with the Benjamin Moores in the world, but I would like to have something that I can teach people, okay, go and do it, and here's the product that you should use. So I don't know if that means I would develop one or work with people to help me develop it, but I see wearing different hats. I do, like personally, I want to have a family, like too. So that's like, I'm 32 and that's like happening, down the road, but like, it's not like it was 10 years down the road for a long time. So there's a lot of different things that like, I don't know exactly what I'll be doing. But I do know that I want to continue working in this kind of environment, as opposed to, I don't want to have to ever go back to an office job where it's like, Laura, you've got to be here at this time and you can't leave until this time. I just can't do it. I also want to get into working online and doing tutorials. We will be doing workshops once things get a little bit safer, where people can come into the space. So I have plans to grow the space that I'm in, bring other people on board. I'd like to have an area where people can rent like a pod for a couple weeks if they want to bring in a dresser and work on it. Say they work on it after work or, on weekends, then they have a designated area where they can do that. I can get them all the supplies and help them through the process. So, because it's not just about painting furniture, it's about proving to yourself that you can like make something that is really ugly look really cool and make it look to your own personal preferences, which I think is nice, because our spaces are we're spending so much time in them. So we may as well like what we're looking at.
That's so cool. Do you record the transformation? Like, do you document that?
I do. I should do it more. Like, I have some TikTok. I do before and afters.
Hold on. What's your TikTok?
Periwinkle_designs.ca, I think. I've got a few. It's funny because I worked in radio, so I used to voice commercials, and then it's like my radio voice comes out, and it's really, really cheesy when I do TikTok.
I'm looking you up right now. Oh, I think I found it. Yeah, I just found you. Look familiar?
Yeah, that's that table that I did for Penny.
I like it. That turned out great.
Yeah, it did. She's so sweet too. Like, there's something really nice when somebody's like, it's my favorite piece of furniture in my whole home. And I'm just like, oh.
I love it. I love it. So I'm very curious, very curious. Like, obviously, like, you started this business in COVID, and it's been like a wild journey for you thus far, which and by the way, hats off to you for like not settling and deciding like, this is what I'm gonna do. I got nothing to lose. Like, I'm just gonna jump into it. Like, that to me, like, that is so incredible to me on so many levels. I just really have a lot of respect for and just excitement for you for doing that. Question that I have for you is this: you talked a little bit about, like, obviously, like, there is some stress, there is some anxiety that comes with this lifestyle. Like, what's the biggest thing, if anything, that scares you about what the path that you've chosen to take?
I think it's there's like a couple things, I guess. I don't want to give up. I don't want to think that things aren't figure outable or get so overwhelmed that I'm like, oh, fine, I'm just going to do this job and then put it on the back burner, and then it just totally fizzles out. I also always want to remember where I came from, and that is, just like painting furniture in my basement and like apologizing for making messes. And I never want to, like, I always want to inspire other people to pursue their passions and to achieve, like, it makes me really happy when I talk to somebody that's like, oh, I've always had an idea of doing a side hustle or this or that. And I really mean it. Like, if I'm able to do it, you can do it, because there's a million reasons why you can, if I can. But I guess I just always want to make sure that I'm, sounds cheesy, like a really nice person.
No, I totally get what you're saying. It's funny that you say that, because like, that's like, if anything, that's the biggest thing that scares me is the fear of is it ever going to get to a point where, like, the success is so much that then I start to subconsciously attach who I am to that, and then lose who I am as a result.
When you meet somebody that's, been doing something for so long and you ask them for their advice and they're just intimidating, I never want to be that person, ever. Like, I never want to be that person that is going to look at somebody when they don't know the answer. I want to be that person that's like, oh, I totally remember when I didn't know the answer. Like, let's figure this out. This is how I remembered it. And so I just, there's been a lot of occasions where I've met people, and not a lot, there's been a couple, because I have designs in my name, and that might change. But, there was one person that it kind of rubbed the wrong way, and they're like, well, you're not a designer. And I'm like, yeah, I know.
Says who?
Well, because, like, if you're an interior designer, like, I am not an interior designer. That is many years of school, and that is something that is earned. So I think it can get confused for people that work in that industry. Like, I don't design things. I just let people pick out how they want it designed color-wise. So, but I never want to be like that. Like, because I was really intimidated. I was really embarrassed, really intimidated. I just launched the website and, had signage done and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to have to get this redone. And I'm not right now. But I remember them.
Because of what that person said?
Well, they looked at me and they're like, what are people in the industry going to think? And I was like, and it was just this person and I talking. And I was like, I didn't think they'd think anything because they're never.
Who cares?
And that's the thing, right? Is like, but I never want to be that type
Wait,
of person.
hold up. Like, let's just get the legalities of this. I want to stay on this for a second because I think this is important. Let's get the legalities of this out of the way real quick because I have a question that can hopefully help clear this up.
Yeah.
Do you need any type of a license to do what you're doing and putting your name on what you're doing?
No, you don't. If I were saying I'm an interior designer, I would. You would.
Which you're not.
No, not an interior designer. Do not have the credentials. They know building codes. They know how wide, a doorway needs to be to get wheelchair access. They study this for a long time,
but the only reason that this person made that comment was because you put your name on the thing that you created.
No, because there's designs in my name, Periwinkle Design.
Okay, so okay, because the reason I want to stay here with you, Laura, for a second is because I think this is huge. Like, you're actually considering redoing everything, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna ask you not to.
Yeah.
And here's the reason why. That person made a comment like, what are other people in the industry going to think?
Yeah.
So first and foremost, just because you have the word design in your, like, our website used to be, just because we have a website designer doesn't mean that we know anything about interior design. I certainly don't know anything about interior design, but I think that's more opinion based than, like, if there's no legalities attached to it and you've just firmed that up for me, like, I think that's totally opinion based. And if you're going to change everything based off of that person's perception of what other people's opinions are going to be, I would say just go ahead and dismiss that.
I think you're right. And that's what, my friends and mentors have said, is just leave it. Because really there's been, an eye roll and then that comment, but those are people I don't want to deal with. Like, they really, really and genuinely are. Like,
yeah. I think that's such, and I'm really glad that we stayed on this, because I think that's such an important distinction to make, because, like, opinions can sink us if we and it can limit creativity, because you are a designer, but there's different capacities of which the word designer is applicable. We design websites. So we're not interior designers. You design furniture. You are creative. You add art. You take and restore furniture. I consider that somebody that restores, designs furniture. Like, we get so caught up in the labels and the legalities, and it's like, come on, man. Like, just let me live.
It's so true. I remember just kind of being like, I was just really excited about my business cards because they're nice and they're matte and they feel good and they look good. And I think, but most of all, never want to be that type of person, like, ever, ever, ever. And I don't think it's in me. Like, I can get hangry, like, that's for sure.
You just use the word. That's like one of our favorite words, hangry. I love that.
I get and like, my boyfriend's the same way. Like, he just gets in a mood. And the girl that helps me a lot, Steph from Creatively Cassidy, she's like, just do not judge anything I say for the next half an hour until I get food. And I won't at all, because I get like that. I get tired if I don't eat. And then with COVID, I had like a half-hour nap at 3:30. Like, it was just a thing that I did. At 3:30, I'd get up at like 6, but at 3:30, I would have a nap. And so I noticed we're at 3:30 to 4. I'm just kind of like a little cranky. So I don't usually plan anything during that hour.
Good for you. Well, to me, that's self-awareness. Like you know yourself, you know what's not, best for you, and then you plan around it. To me,
Yeah.
that's smart. Laura, listen, I'm so excited that we were able to chat today. Like
I fun.
I've honestly like just it's been an honor and a pleasure to speak with you. Like there's just so much life, there's so much
Likewise.
energy. So thank you very much. I really, really do appreciate
Oh,
us being able to speak today. Oh, did you lose me?
oh, you froze.
I froze. Can you still hear me?
Wait, gonna come back. Oh, there you go. You're back now.
Oh, there we go.
Nope, you froze again.
Oh, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, okay. So let people know, Laura, where they can find you.
They can find me at periwinkle-designs.ca. You can find me on Instagram, periwinkle_designs.ca. You can text me a photo of your furniture, 613-885-4521. I have people that'll text a picture of their furniture and they're like, what do I do with this? What can I do? And we'll just kind of go back and forth. So Instagram, Facebook, text, email, info@periwinkle-designs.ca. And we're at 250 Sydney Street, which is, you need a card to get in, but there's a lot of really cool businesses in there. It's the old Nortel building. So we have a studio set up and all of our tools are there. They do the Amazon shipments too, which is great. So there's loading docks. I can bring big pieces in.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, you're right. Definitely a lot of great businesses in there, and it's awesome to hear that you're in there as well. Laura, thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure.
Much, Josh. I'll see you at the next coffee talk.
We'll see you tomorrow then.
Yes. Okay.
All right. We'll see you
Bye.
then.